On the agenda tonight, we're going to be taking a look at Jeff Beck performing Live in the Dark. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. Following the very sad news that Jeff Beck has passed away recently, we're going to be taking a look at Jeff, and thank you guys for all of the requests for this video tonight. It does seem unbelievable that Jeff Beck has passed away, given that he seemed to not be affected by time. He was just super cool all the time. Every single performance you'd see him in, he just oozed this aura of just coolness personified, and especially the way that he played his guitar. He really did sound like nobody else. He had his own voice, and we're going to be exploring that in tonight's video with this performance. And by the way, in this performance we have Rosie Bones on lead vocal and Carmen Vandenberg, and they're from Bones UK, by the way, the band, and they were involved in the writing as well. So this is a song that was co-written with Jeff, but we will get everything up on screen and we'll see how they get on. I am going to be jumping into this. There'll be a link, as always, in the description below if you want to watch it the whole way through without me interrupting it. But let's get into it.
I'm not afraid of the dark. If we gotta live in the dark, we will live in the dark. Won't see me dying in the light. I will live in the dark. I will live in the dark. I will live in the dark. We will live in the dark. Won't see me dying in the light. I will live in the dark.
There's so much in this because the amount of technique that Jeff had, I mean, for the way that he played, I think considering that he just changed, he always moved on, and this is something that a lot of guitarists don't do. They just have their own way of playing, and that is it, and that is set, and they might start doing that in the 60s or the 70s and then just continue with their career. But with Jeff, I mean, a great indication of this is in the late 80s, early 90s, when he literally did away with his pick. So he then started playing with his fingers, playing fingerstyle. But I mean, that opened him up really artistically to so many more degrees of expression through his guitar, so that he now had this voice that was totally separate and totally different and just sounded like Jeff Beck. And this is obviously a great example of that. And we get to see the technique. Obviously, he could play slide as well. He could play with a pick. So he had all the technique in the world playing in different ways. And it's applying the level of technique that he applied to the whammy bar on his guitar that gave him this unique voice. And I want to just explore why his sound was so unique and why it was just Jeff Beck coming through this guitar. So in order to have a great voice, you got to be a great singer, and this is something that Jeff does through his guitar. And the reason why the whammy bar is so important on this right hand, when we're playing, for example, we get this little wobble to it, kind of like that. You know, by playing with his thumb, he's got constant access to it. So whenever he wanted to do a little wobble of vibrato, it's always there. So, I mean, the difference, the trade-off between not having that is if I'm going, I've got to do that physical movement to go and grab the whammy bar. So you've got that bit of silence between what you're playing and then when the vibrato comes in. And the vibrato is the expression, it's your fingerprint. I mean, I say that about singers in the vocal analysis videos that we've done, how their vibrato is just unique, and it's exactly the same for playing the guitar. So the fact that there's no break between what's being played and then the application of vibrato makes it a lot more natural and gets the notes to flow and for the guitar to sing whenever Jeff wants it to. If we are relating this to the voice, when you're singing, you don't have to sing a note and then wait to go and do your vibrato. You can you can hit a note and vibrato straight away if you want to, and that's what Jeff's doing on his guitar. And the other massive thing that makes it like a human voice is by using the whammy bar, Jeff is descending in pitch. What I mean by that is that if I just play that again and I push down on the whammy bar, you can hear that the note is descending, and well, I'm playing two notes here, so they're both descending with each other and then coming back to where they are. In the vocal analysis videos that we've done on the voice and great singers, I guarantee you all of them go below the note that they're singing. And you know, some of them go a little bit above the note. The more above the note they go, the more dramatic it sounds. But without doubt, they all go below the note. And to do an example of that, you just heard it on the guitar. But if we're going, it's that sound. It's just going down, and then speed it up, and that's what vibrato is. So it's going below the note. When you play the guitar and you fret notes, you can't go below the note. It's impossible because of the tension on the strings. If I'm playing a note and I go and then apply vibrato, if I slow that down, listen to what happens. We're going above. So the human voice that we know goes below the note all the time. We can't do that on the guitar. Jeff can do that because he's got his whammy bar in there. And he can take it down. Whereas going the other way and pushing or pulling on the whammy bar, you then get the note to ascend, which is all you can do on fretted notes. The only way that you can simulate that sound on the guitar is by doing a bend. And it means that you're bending up to your destination, like that, because then you can then go down in pitch. But that's massively impractical. If you want to play any notes following each other, you can't constantly be bending up to them. So that's out of the equation. You can't do that. You can't do bends all the time on the guitar, but that's what Jeff is doing effectively with his whammy bar. And it wasn't just a throwaway thing. It wasn't a novelty. He really worked at this technique with the whammy bar so that it started to become a real voice and just have its own expression within everything that he played. And that's why it just sounded so unique. And by having access to that whammy bar all the time means that he can always throw in that little wobble if he wants to, and you know. And when you're doing that, it means that you don't have to wait for your phrase to end before you can apply the vibrato. So doing that again in slow motion was, there are slides, and if you want to, you can vibrato while you're sliding, which again is another thing that you will never be able to do, because when you're sliding it's going to be very difficult indeed to get that consistent vibrato while you're sliding up and down the guitar. So this is it. I mean, there are a million things that you can point out about Jeff's playing, but just the way that he adjusts his tone on the guitar as well, just rolling off the volume so that in the quieter sections dynamically he's just matching everything perfectly. Let's have a listen.
Will live in the dark, won't see me dying in the light. I will live in the dark. I will live in the dark. I will live.
It's really subtle in there. Turn it up a little bit more. You know, it's all kind of in there. And just a tiny little wobble, you know, real subtlety. He's not kind of, you know, really going for it with that whammy bar. But again, just tiny little details.
The dark, we will live in the dark. Won't see me dying in the light. I will live in the dark.
And then, you know, full out with the volume. Or subconsciously, I'm going to vibrato on the guitar. You know, it's not the way that I play with the whammy bar, but you get the idea that the change in the tone that takes you from that dynamic place, from being quiet to now being fully in. Even there, where we had that bend, he's applying that vibrato with that whammy bar.
Dark, we bring candles down to the dark. We will love in the dark. We go on.
These little kind of chops, just high E and B string, and then that little riff in there. And again, same phrase. Yeah, and then we're starting to let loose a little bit. But I mean, there was a great example of that bend. And then applying it with the whammy bar. And it does, I mean, it looks unique as well, because you expect to see the bend and then you expect to see the hand move, but it's totally solid, and just applying it with the whammy bar. And it's that kind of thing that so we've got that kind of thing, that run that he had, you know, totally unique sound to it, really cool line, but because of the way that he's playing those notes, but he's always got that whammy bar at the ready. It means that when once he's done that little pull off and playing the G and the B string together and applying that whammy bar, can come straight in. So I mean, it's just really cool. I mean, we could go through this kind of second by second, but we will jump back to where we got to. I think it was like about 2 minutes 14, was it?
We'll hold hands in the dark, 'cause when you hold hands in the dark, you don't know whose hand you hold. You're just humans that love.
Interestingly, there was a tiny bit of feedback that came in there.
Hold, you're just humans that love.
There, and you saw that was Jeff opening the taps on his guitar, which means that he's turned the volume up to 10, and we're going to get the heavy tone that's going to accompany his guitar playing. But we heard the feedback. As soon as he turned the volume up, he got a little bit of feedback, but because he's Jeff Beck, he had that under control, just changed the angle of his body and the guitar so the feedback stopped instantly. But it's a great indication to, show you how close he is to feedback with his amp, something that Jimi Hendrix used to do, just dancing on that edge of feedback. So the amp, the guitar, everything, Jeff, it's all one. It's just this living creature that could bite at any point, and that's the feedback, but it's just right on the edge, and that's what gives it such a great sound. And the aggression in the tone is because of that, because it is so close to being out of control because it's so loud. I wouldn't say that we're massively distorted here in the sound, but we are massively turned up, to 11, and you can tell that with the guitar tone, but it really does show Jeff's control, that he's this close to getting feedback, but he's controlling it the whole time. And that was a tiny hint of feedback within the note there. And I don't think it was a harmonic. It was just that blending of being right on the edge. And that's something that, again, not that I'm comparing the two players, Jimi Hendrix has this in some of his performances where he plays a note and the note has feedback in it, and then he gets back into his playing and it's all under control again. But then people trying to replicate the sound, when you're trying to play this at home, you won't be able to get the same sound because you won't have feedback in your note, because you have to be right on the edge of your setup. You have to turn everything up to the point of getting feedback, but not quite. So yeah, again, this is just another indication of how unique each performance is and how unique the control is to be able to do this, play a note and have feedback in there, but then for the feedback to not take over and ruin everything. And just to mention some of the technique that's going on, obviously muting is a huge part of this with the right hand, making sure that you're resting on the low E string and the A string, D string. And even there we had that kind of, like that. I think he was playing that with his thumb. But the bends, the way that he incorporates bends, because he still does those on the fretboard, but he brings in the whammy bar as well. So you almost get this, pedal steel guitar sound or slide guitar, but he's not using a slide. So you get that slide technique sound in there, but he's doing that all just with his left hand and his right hand and the combination of the two.
Oh yeah, 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 oh yeah.
And there we have it. I mean, the detail is in the subtlety of even when we've got this this little run up, we've sometimes got that really subtle dip on the whammy bar before we go up, and even that kind of thing, yeah, before we actually get to the first notes that we hear. So he's always bringing that in there, but of course it's seamless, and we just get to appreciate and enjoy the final result of all of that technique and all of the time that Jeff has spent mastering this whammy bar and getting everything in sync, getting both of the hands to work together, yeah, perfectly. And it's great to be able to listen to, but then when you start to break it down and look at it technique wise, you think, wow, there is so much in there. And also it's got this kind of there's a kind of little line, you know, or it was something like that. But there are kind of cool lines that are being thrown in there all the time. So it's not just, you know, great technique. And there are loads of guitarists who have great technique and, you know, can play really cleanly and play, you know, a million notes a second if that's what you're into. But it's pairing the technique and the mastery of technique with artistry and expression and musicality and melody and all of these things that people can lock into when they listen to music. You know, when you're listening to something, you want to be able to understand it effectively so that what you're listening to, your brain takes it in and has an emotional response to it. And with Jeff's playing, he gives you all of that, but it's the technique paired with the artistry that gives you this result. Even when he's just playing lines, he's playing really cool melodic lines. He's not like that line that I just played. He's throwing those notes together in minor pentatonic shape 1, but it's melody, and it doesn't matter what shape you're playing, doesn't matter what scale you're playing. If it's melodic, then that's all that matters. And, you know, Jeff just had that ability to throw together melody with top level technique so that you didn't know, you couldn't hear the technique, you just got to enjoy the result. A legend. I know that legend is overused, but really in guitar terms, and I think amongst guitarists as well, he will go down as that. I mean, he's inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, once for the Yardbirds and once as a solo artist. So it gives you an appreciation of his level of artistry that after being in a very successful band, to then go away and have your own successful career as a guitarist is really, really difficult. And I'm not talking about, you know, a guitarist who sings as well, just somebody who's using their guitar for their voice. It's still a little bit raw, it's a little bit of a shock still, and like I said, a bit unbelievable. But when things settle down, people will really be able to enjoy his music. Thankfully, we've got that. We can just type his name into YouTube and see these kinds of videos, but, you know, videos across the years and across his career. But what a fantastic player, but above all, what an artist. And that's all you can ask, is to be unique, to be yourself, to have your own sound. And that's certainly what Jeff Beck had. So thank you guys for watching this. I hope you did enjoy the video, and I'll catch you guys at the next one.